the rest of the track to do the work on the same length as the long straight. So you've actually got almost a upside down letter B, or back to front letter B, I suppose you'd call it, almost in its configuration here, with little loops and S's throughout the other half of the circuit. But this massive big long straight going into the Invercargill oil shop Caltex loop here at Teretonga. It's a spectacular part of the track where they go almost right back around on themselves. Just the beautiful symmetrical corner. You've always got to love it. All right, Superlite's back in our program at the moment, brought to us by Lone Star. Legendary meals, the best music and an atmosphere you can taste. Open 7 nights a week from 5 p.m. Motel chargeback available. Lone Star in Invercargill, serving legends like you since 1988 on the corner of D and Leet Street here in Invercargill at 0321462225. www.lonestar.co.nz as we fire it up now for a great bit of Lone Star Superlite racing. Gav Veltmeyer, Sean Harris, Jacob Stroud. Had the privilege of dining out with Gav Veltmeyer last night, and caught up with Gav to say, hey, just what happened in that last lap. And he said he went up to Jacob Stroud and shook his hand and said, you beat me fair and square. Gav, although did saying that he got a real surprise from him and hadn't realised he was as close, and if he was, maybe he might have taken some other action. But more importantly, the older rider saying to the young gun, you deserved every bit of it. So great compliment out there, and well done. Nice sport, super guy, Gav. All right, so Sean Harris, Gav Veltmeyer, Matt Hugenboozem, better from Matt today. That's what we like to see. Starting to come back, and of course, at scrub session at Ruapuna, round 1 last Sunday morning. Had a terrible crash that was not his fault. Taken out by another rider who had a mechanical problem. In fact, another rider lost his brakes on the warm-up session, and it was then a matter of takeout. And the other rider, in fact, was very, very apologetic throughout the day, including making a very honourable speech at prize giving. And also, once Matt returned from hospital with his leg in a bandage, he was personally greeted by the other rider, which went down very well amongst everybody, and there was nobody more upset than, of course, the man that took him out, rather than just the one that got taken out. So complete accident, and happy endings on that. So there you have it. So Sean Harris, Gavin Veltmeyer, Matt Hugenboozem, Jacob Stroud, Johnny Lewis in there, the high flyer out of Nelson, Mike Talbot on that different looking bike, the Motard, with its sort of mini fairing, which makes it look that little bit different. And in there as well, James Knowles, along with Max Olsen, Chris Huddleston, Andy McLaughlin, of course. Andy, a busy man because he does the senior development as well on his little 150. Derek Partridge and Brent Garvin out there. And, well, I've long been a fan of Brent, so nice to see him riding out there, the number 95 on the Site Services Limited Suzuki 450 Singer. Now, this is actually an RMZ Suzuki motocross bike, which has then had its frame converted to be a road racing bike. So of course that means putting a different configuration on the front end, of course turning the handlebars from being up to going down, and doing a few other changes. But when you actually look at the original chassis, the engine sitting there, still a RMZ motocross bike, but not in motard form, which most motocross bikes are. He's put this into road racing form and giving it a fairing as well, and putting some very honest times out there, like a 1:12. He's in fact just faster than Andy McLaughlin, who's a couple of places in front of him. There we go, Mr. Sean Harris, Super Sean Harris, the man we just know and respect as Gremlin. And there he goes. Could have played a part in the Hobbit movie for my money, but there you go, there's Gremlin. We saw him on TV with his hoardings of Milo, and he's still got some of those available. So for people that like that original Milo, he's the man to see, and certainly making sure he doesn't undersell himself. So Sean Harris, Gavin Veltmeyer, Matt Hugenboozem and Jacob Stroud, and yesterday it was Sean, Gavin and Jacob, and then on the last lap, Jacob getting up over Gav. Matt Hugenboozem starting to get into some form, which I expect him to be in a different bike to one that he expected to be riding. In fact, he's on the modified Honda. Now, when we talk about modified, the dominant machinery in the Superlites class is actually the 600 Super Sport bike with one cylinder missing. And there's been a various lot of ways that engineers have got the missing cylinder to still get a balance of the engine, with some of them actually still going up and down, but there's no valves, and there's others that are completely missing. There's some that have got a dummy in there rather than a proper piston, and there's been various ways of still balancing the engine, but making a very good motorcycle. Why? Because of course they've got a chassis, they've got geometry, they've got twin disc on the front, they've got great suspension front and rear. They're a very good bike. For whatever reason, the 600 engine is no longer as good to be a 600, so when the engine work has been done, let's turn this into a 450, making it completely eligible as a 4-cylinder multi-4-stroke to be in this F3 class. So really saying, hey, these bikes are still good enough to be a good racing bike, and they certainly are. If you like to make the comparison to Super Sport class, of course, we can do so by just making a time comparison. Top time in that class at around the minute marks for those guys, and here for Sean it's 1:05. So you're talking of 5 seconds a lap slower, and that's all that's been lost by dropping a quarter of the CC capacity, which actually has resulted, some are saying, in dropping more of a quarter of the power, because you're actually you've got the engine slightly out of performance, and it does mean that there's less power produced by this smaller capacity bike. All right, the 450 out in front is a different bike. That's Gav Veltmeyer. He's got the high-performing SV650, and the mechanic from Coleman's of K Road in Auckland has really got that bike to fly. And telling me last night, 294 kilometres an hour, the fastest speed he's ever had on that bike. He was clocked out here yesterday, 294 kilometres. No, that will be wrong, surely. No, it won't be two. Oh, sorry, I made that figure wrong. 294, that will be grossly wrong, I'm sure, for that kind of speed. It would have been, well, it was certainly, was it 244 something? But anyway, certainly, as he'd said, the fastest he'd ever gone on the bike. He did tell me the speed. My apologies, I don't think I've accurately portrayed the figure he gave me. It wasn't an exaggerated figure. I think I've just accidentally done that. But anyway, the fastest that he'd ever gone on the bike before was done here yesterday, and yet to think that it was in a race when he was not the winner. So there you go. Finished up in second place in the recent Suzuki Series over 3 great rounds in December last year through Hampton Downs, Manfield, and the finale at the famous Cemetery Circuit. So great efforts by the Auckland flyer, Gav Veltmeyer. Really enjoying his time down here. He's got family in Christchurch, Timaru and Dunedin, so spending time with them on a South Island tour. Really loving catching up with friends and family over this part of the country. For the man is from Auckland. He said yesterday, here it was 15 degrees in Invercargill, 29 degrees back home in Auckland. So rather contrasting climate, but more importantly, the racing was hot and the atmosphere was warm. So nice run from Gav out there. All right, Sean Harris, Matt Hugenboozem, Gav Veltmeyer. So the change has gone on there. We've been giving Gav some credit, and now Matt Hugenboozem. And yesterday, not a good day. Every day will be a better healing. You watch, by the time we get to levels next week, I'd suggest this man's going to take a victory. That's my prediction. As we see him fight his way back, he'll feel much better in another week's time, I'm sure. And very accomplished rider, former 125 GP title holder, one of the most dominant riders in 125 GP in the last 2 or 3 years. And now the big step up into the different bike here. So Matt Hugenboozem, courtesy of Mum, Dad, Nationwide Accessories, Race Supplies, Revit, Avon City, Suzuki and SuperliteR Superbike. And the difference is that even though we mentioned those sponsors, he's actually on a different SuperliteR racing bike, a Honda, and not the Suzuki GSX-R 400, as he talked about. All right, so there we go. Sean, Matt, the difference between them, 5.6 seconds. I'll tell you what, Gav Veltmeyer in there, Johnny Lewis, Jacob Stroud, he got a second yesterday, back in a 5th place here at the moment. So struggling for that performance, as we see Mike Talbot, James Knowles going past there. And then back to 43 of Max Olsen, the green bike of 68 down there. Chris Huddleston from Christchurch on the Kawasaki ZX-R 400. Love those bikes. And then a nice side-to-side battle in there, 65 and 151. Derek Partridge, the 95, sorry, of Brent Garvin, almost getting there at that point on the line. All right, still further updates to watch here at the moment as we get him fired up. And there it is, Sean Harris in the checkered flag. Well done, Sean. Another win, winning all the way. Great to watch. And there we are. Yes, Matt getting there over Gavin. So down to that narrowest point again. We look out for those results. And keen just to look at our SuperliteR line.